Well, the governor went through areas of success that he thought in the last year. So some of the areas that I agree with him are increased coverage for mammograms. Obviously, it makes sense, especially for women and our daughters. He also talked about the need for investment in early childhood is a big topic. We will hear a lot more about that issue this year, and we should. There's a task force that's currently meeting on that topic. Talked about other issues regarding the budget, and talked about also the low unemployment that our state has. And I'll be honest with you, we do have low unemployment right now. When I first came into office, 10 years ago, the unemployment has been cut in half this past year. What he didn't say was that because the economy is doing better across the country, we have the lowest unemployment across the country. So does the state of Illinois. It's because of the policies going on with the president, and that trickles down to every state. So we've often said if the economy's doing well, if everyone's working, then they're paying more into the budget. Last year, we received over $1.4 billion more in revenue because the economy is doing well, and you can congratulate the federal government and the president for that as well. What the governor did not touch on too long was fair maps. So we have the redistricting coming up, and we talk about the need for fair maps. So these districts should be drawn fairly according to population, not drawn by parties. And currently, we have two people, the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, who right now as we speak are drawing those maps to make sure that their incumbents are still drawn into their districts and that they keep the power. So we advocate for fair maps. These districts, it makes sense, they need to be drawn according to population and not according to political party. He briefly touched on corruption, but that's really the big, as we say, thing in the room that needs to be talked about and expanded more. We need to pass legislation that once and for all deals with corruption in this state. So even though we have several good things to talk about in the state, corruption is that one issue that we keep hearing about, and we want legislation that's passed that deals with it, such as a very robust financial disclosure for their elected official and their spouse, for much like at the federal level. I also believe that many elected officials should not have outside income. And if you alleviate that outside income like they do at the federal level, then you technically alleviate the influence coming in with it. So if he wants to deal with corruption, some of these bills are going to make everybody uncomfortable, but the public's demanding it. And I think the time is right. He talked about a bipartisan task force. The time is right to sit at the table and make sure that we pass legislation that deals with it and not legislation that's just biting around the edges and call it a day and go home.